Okay, welcome back, everybody, to Speak of the Devils podcast. I am Dom Fusco alongside Sammy St. Jean and Sam Glavin. We got a very special guest today, son of last week's guest, Coach Q. We have Coach Matt Quattrone on today, and we're going to talk a little bit college football, a little bit of NFL for this upcoming week. But by the time this comes out, it will be the NFL week will be completed, so you guys will be able to judge us on how poorly our takes were for this week. And also, LA got its second title in the past month. So, fellas, how we doing today?
Terrible, because Boston isn't title town anymore right now.
Salty Sammy.
Good. I can be salty for like a week. Loud.
I get it. No,
especially because Mookie won a title, so I have to be a little.
Well, that's what I was just about to bring up to you. So the LA Dodgers, they won the title, the World Series title, over the Tampa Bay Rays in 6 games. I think it was 6 games. Yep. And there was a very controversial pitching poll by the Rays manager Kevin Cash. He pulled Blake Snell after he had given up, I think, 2 hits. He had a bunch of strikeouts, and he was only at 75 pitches. So, and then they pulled him, and then immediately the next pitcher got shelled. And Blake Snell was doing completely fine. I personally am on the train with everybody else. He should not have pulled Blake Snell. He was their best chance to win that game. And I think if they kept him in, whether or not he was going to give up a couple hits here and there, but the next guy absolutely got shelled. I know hindsight is 20/20, but it didn't look good. Kevin Cash is catching some serious heat right now from the baseball world because I assumed most people would have liked to see the Rays, this just a good quality put together team, beat up on the Dodgers, who were the favorite. So, Sammy.
Yeah. So I remember on last episode I told you that he screwed up by leaving Glasnow in for 125 pitches when he wasn't pitching well, but he's going to pull Blake Snell at 73 pitches, throwing 2-hit baseball. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't just like 2-hit baseball. Snell was dealing.
Yeah,
I was literally sitting there like, I mean, maybe Kershaw won't get his first ring. Granted, that is the one thing that I am happy for. Like, sure. I feel like Kershaw getting his first ring, the world's a little better now. Like,
he definitely proved himself. He's gotten some serious backlash from previous playoff appearances, and I was glad to see that. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, no doubt about it, and now it's like solidified. Like, he's got a ring. Like, he did his job. Like, he did fine. Actually, he did more than fine. He did fantastic. So, like, that was good to see.
All right, we won't kill Dom with baseball. We'll move on.
I'll be honest. I watched the end of Game 4, which was wild.
Game 5 was crazy too, actually.
Whatever game the Rays won.
That was 4.
On the double Eric Game 4. Yeah, that was wild. I'll be honest. That was the only part of the MLB that I watched of the World Series, but I was fully on the Rays bandwagon at that moment in time, and. So what was crazy was either one of those teams was going to win the second title for their town this year, which was pretty crazy.
Right, because the Lightning, yeah, got it. That is interesting. I know. So, like, I definitely wanted the Rays to win that one. I love the GM for the Rays, Eric Neander. I want him to be the GM for the Phillies so bad because he actually knows how to evaluate talent within his own farm system and then bring him up to the bigs at the right time. So I'm fully on the train. I'm sure, Dom, you might have seen on Twitter, like, give Eric Neander a blank check. Like, I give him a blank check, get him to the Phillies. And, like, imagine, so the Rays are a small market team in terms of the MLB. And imagine what he could do with Phillies, who are just a pretty big market in the MLB right now. It's just, I want that to happen so bad.
Yeah, well, it probably won't.
Probably not, because Andy McPhail still has a job, but it's all good. I can't rip Andy McPhail. He is a Dickinson alum, and this is a Dickinson podcast, so I'll refrain.
You play on McPhail Field.
I know. I do. I do know that it's very controversial, and it's something that I wrestle with every day. So
the thing is, I feel like he hasn't done a bad job. No. I mean, I don't pay attention to the Phillies like that, though. So
yeah, I mean, we won't dread on this much longer, but the problem is that nobody really knows what he does. That's the biggest problem. So, but we can move on. I don't want to rip a Dickinson alum too much on this podcast.
Fandom gets the best of us,
I know it really does.
All right, we'll move on to football. We're, as Don pointed out to us, that we've been talking about like the week past, so it's literally a week and a half, two football weeks removed. So we're gonna talk more predictions this week than recap. What guy? I know what game you guys have your eyes on, but
big time Dallas week, baby.
If you guys don't win that game, I'll be thoroughly embarrassed for you.
Well, here's the thing. I don't see how the Eagles lose. I mean, the Cowboys defense is just horrendous. We're getting a bunch of weapons back this week. Jalen Reagor's coming back. Miles Sanders is out, but I just really don't see how the Eagles lose this one. They might find a way. It's Dallas week. It's just one of those things where anything can happen. But I'm definitely taking the Eagles in this one. Shocker, right? I know.
I am obviously looking forward to that game. Ohio State, Penn State this weekend is what I'm really looking forward to on Saturday night. Penn State coming off a pretty bad loss to Indiana. Ohio State looked incredible. So that's going to be an interesting game in an empty Beaver Stadium tomorrow. Other than that, not a whole lot on the college football slate. As you guys know, I'm a pretty big college football fan. Not a ton of great games on, but in terms of the NFL, looking forward to Steelers-Ravens, which is going to be a great game. I know, we have a lot of Pittsburgh people, we have a lot of Baltimore people at Dickinson, so I'm sure everybody's going to be tuned into that one. Mm-hmm. I'm also looking at 49ers-Seahawks, which is going to be a great game, and also looking forward to Raiders-Browns. See if either of these teams, it's like, are they for real? Are they not for real? So we'll see with that. Other than that, pretty much all the games on the slate are not great, but a couple good ones.
All right, I get it. No one else wants to watch the Colts. It's fine.
Lions. I always, Sammy, I always ask you how the Colts are doing, and I do.
Well, they had a bye week last week, so they were great.
I try my best to get some Colts stuff in there for you. But as long as we're on the topic of college football, Trevor Lawrence, the quarterback for the Clemson Tigers, just tested positive for coronavirus. I don't know who they're playing this week. BC. But
they're 4-2 right now too.
Yeah. Okay,
so it became a sneaky good game really quick.
Exactly. So I'm interested to hear Dom's thoughts on that, and then Sammy's thoughts.
Well, I still think Clemson's going to win because I don't even know who their backup is, but they're incredibly deep at every position. Mm-hmm. So Boston recruit. Yeah. Well, Boston College is they're sneaky good. They can be sneaky good, and they pull a lot of upsets. To be honest, I think that Clemson's going to be fine. I think they're going to roll them still. So there's my take on that.
Yeah, I agree with Dom. I think Clemson's still going to win. I mean, they have a 5-star recruit who I think he's played a couple plays here and there, and he's a man amongst boys.
Is that DJ? Is that DJ? Is he his backup now?
I'm not sure. He might be. I just know. I read a couple articles. I just can't remember his name off the top of my head. But I know he's a 5-star recruit.
DJ Wagalele. I don't know if he graduated yet, but he's a stud football and baseball player at Clemson. I don't know if that's him, to be honest.
The other thing I'm looking at is not this week, but next week. So if Trevor Lawrence isn't back next week, they play the number 4 team in the country in Notre Dame. That's a potential problem.
I believe if it comes back that it's like a false positive, then he'll be good to go. But I believe if he's actually experiencing like COVID-19 symptoms, I think he has to sit out for that game as well.
Yeah.
In terms in like the ACC protocol, like I read a little bit about it, and I'm pretty sure that they said that he's missing this week and most likely next week as well. So
actually, while we're on the topic of COVID, what was up with Justin Turner?
I can't believe we forgot about that. Thank you, Sammy. So he got a test before the game, came back positive, played the game. I'm pretty sure he had knowledge.
He played like 2 innings or something, didn't he?
Yeah. So he played a couple innings, left, and then came back on the field when they won.
And was not wearing a mask for part of it, celebrating with his teammates, like hugs.
Yeah. And I don't really know why nobody else is making it such a big deal as much as I am. I think that's kind of screwed up. I mean, first of all, he got a test before the game and it was positive, and then they pulled him, and then he came back out and was I don't know what's going on there. I haven't heard anything about any punishment or anything, whether it deserves punishment or not. That's not my decision. I just think it's kind of screwed up.
Yeah, I understand the desire to celebrate like you just got a World Series title after being kind of, I don't want to say snubbed because they were beaten out, right, in the previous couple they'd been to, but snubbed to a certain degree. And like I understand it, but either the entire Dodgers team has COVID right now or he was a false positive.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what other news comes out about that. But it was right after the game that like the press got the word, got like the whiff of COVID from him. Like right, literally, I got a notification saying Dodgers win the World Series, and I was like, great, like Rays didn't win. But and then I got another one saying Justin Turner left the game because he had a positive test, and then he went back out on the field again, and that's to me that's pretty screwed up.
Outside of that, the Wisconsin quarterback Jack Cohn, who will probably be a first-round pick in next year's draft, also tested positive,
and so did their backup.
Yes, so did their backup. So rough go for
in a matter of 2 or 3 days.
Rough go for Wisconsin.
Yeah,
that's definitely tough.
Just to say, I said it. Soccer happened too. Just include it.
Soccer happened.
It
occurred.
You know what? We keep thinking of things on the fly, but the Cowboys are starting Ben DiNucci, who is a JMU graduate, and their third string quarterback. So it's looking good for the Eagles there as well.
Gatorade athlete of the year. I remember watching him play in high school.
He was indeed, and my cousin plays at James Madison, and my sister goes there. So I mean, it's a little bit ironic that he's playing for the Cowboys right now, but. For me, at least, I mean, I want to see him do well. Obviously, I don't want to see him do well. It's tough, but we'll see. We'll see what happens on Sunday.
Yeah, we just got to fly through. We had to fly through a couple things. We got an exciting interview. I know we both want to, or all three of us want to get to. So I'm good. Are you guys good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Big time.
All right. So we'll see. Be back in a second for our interview. All right, we are back after our first segment, but we got to get a quick word from the Grazery. Healthy, not boring. That's not just the motto of the Grazery, but it's also their promise to you. Visit the Grazery today and indulge on a fresh Mediterranean-inspired salad, sandwiches, and soups, among other great options on a menu that serves both breakfast and lunch. Eat in or take out. No reservation needed here, so hurry on down to 156 West High Street, just yards from the campus, and enjoy a fresh and feel-healthy meal today.
Okay, staying in the bloodline, we have with us very special guest today, one of my coaches, strength and conditioning coordinator for the Dickinson football team, as well as many other programs on campus, and cornerbacks coach for the Dickinson college football team, Carlisle's own Coach Matt Quattrone. Coach, great to have you on with us today.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's an honor to follow up the big guy on this.
Honestly, we had a lot of perfect timing.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with him last week, so we're really pumped to have you on today. So, Coach, you write a lot of the strength and conditioning programs for us in football and for some of the other teams. You know, how has that kind of changed with everybody not having access to the same equipment, and how's that changed for you in terms of writing programs?
It's certainly been frustrating with everything going on. I'd say it was more frustrating kind of in March when all of this kicked off, because pretty much everyone was dealing with what they had at home, and some guys had home gyms, some guys had bands, some guys had nothing. So from a programming standpoint, that was a bit tough. It's a little easier now as things are starting to, at least right now, reopen, and guys are getting a little more access. How I handled it was kind of just met guys where they were at. You know, if they had bands, we wrote something for bands. If they had a full setup in their home gym, we wrote something for that. I kind of used it like a menu list. It's like, hey, if you have something, do this. If you have everything, do this. If you have nothing, you know, most sports you have to run. So we did a lot of running and body weight stuff, whether that be like eccentric push-ups and stuff like that. Just to keep people in shape. The biggest thing is when everyone does eventually get back to campus, as long as they're in shape, we can take the proper steps moving forward.
No, absolutely. And I know that, like, obviously now it's different, like Don was asking you, but during a normal season, how do you go about doing different workouts for different sports? Because I know Don mentioned, obviously, that you do it for a variety of sports, not just football. So how do you design workouts per sport?
Well, it kind of depends where they're at. In season, we're going to back off a little bit, and that's no matter what the sport is. And then out of the season, it's kind of based around the school year. So I try to keep it to 3 to 4 to even 6-week blocks, depending on how much time we have, and then just vary the intensity or the volume rather of what we're doing in the weight room based on the sport and kind of what that athlete will need based on the demands of their sport. I try to give them a holistic approach. I'm not one of those guys that get into true sports specificity. I don't think I can give any basketball player true basketball movements in the weight room. I think that's a little silly to think that. Nor can I give a football player, like Dom says, I can't give him safety in the weight room. So it's all pretty general stuff, and it's based on the time of year. So in season, we're going to back off a little bit because they're already filling a lot of their energy demands through the practice of sport. Out of season, we'll crank it up a little bit more, and we'll vary based on, sometimes we'll do a hypertrophy block to get them bigger. Sometimes we'll do a strength block to get them stronger, and then sometimes we'll do a pure power block to translate that strength into explosiveness.
Coach, I'll shift gears a little bit. It might be a little bit of an obvious question, probably one that you've gotten before, but what's it like working with your dad and being on the same coaching staff?
It's actually, it's been great. Coming out of high school back in 2013, one of the few things my dad told me was, well, you can't go to Dickinson, and you certainly can't go to Franklin and Marshall. So he kind of kicked me out of the house for 4 years. I went down to McDaniel College in Maryland. I had a great time there, great experience. But I've always held Dickinson as a great part of my life. I've always felt that family atmosphere that he talked about on the last show that you had him on. So I've always wanted to come back here and work either for him or with him. He has since obviously moved on to be the athletic director, but just being in the department and being able to feel that kind of family atmosphere firsthand has been fantastic. It's been great for me.
So you have the unique opportunity to both do strength conditioning as well as coach. In the foreseeable future, do you see yourself kind of looking to stay in roles where you're able to do both, or do you think that you might possibly go to one or another, or you just kind of riding the wave right now?
I'd say for the foreseeable future, I'm going to look for spots where I can do both, because I'm truly passionate about strength and conditioning and working with kids. But at the end of the day, I'm a football guy. I love football. That's kind of what I obviously grew up playing. I grew up going to Dickinson football games and watching the Steelers and the Eagles and all those great Pennsylvania teams. So I'm definitely looking forward to staying with both for as long as I can. Ultimately, I probably will make a decision, somewhere down the road regarding which one I take as a true career path. But as a young, guy in his 20s, I'm trying to soak it all in and enjoy both as much as I can right now.
So Dom said you specifically coach cornerbacks for Dickinson Football, yes?
Yep.
So when you get into the more specific position type coaches, what exactly does that entail? Because I know obviously you're going to have to work with the defensive coordinator, but what exactly do you do at practice, and kind of what is your role during, a general week leading into a game?
Yeah, so I do a lot of the film breakdown defensively, so that on Mondays, Sunday we use to break down all of the film on our upcoming opponent for the next week. And then Mondays, Dom will tell you, they have off from everything, so all film is broken down. We meet as a defensive staff, kind of craft our game plan, our tentative game plan for the week. We start practice on Tuesday. And kind of test things out, what works, what doesn't. From a practice standpoint, I coach the corners like you mentioned, so I handle all of their indie work, meaning individual work. So when we break to work by position, I have all of the corners. I think we have 6 right now. And we do basic sports-specific things like sports-specific movements, general route coverage, and technique, things like that. And we also spend a lot of time, and Dom will tell you, we spend a lot of time with the safeties as well, and Coach Glennon. We call ourselves DBC. We spend a lot of time together. I also do a lot on special teams. Coach Glennon handles all of our special teams, and I kind of help him out as much as I can. And we kind of get that rolling as well. But a lot of film breakdown and a lot of drill running, as well as running the scout team, which is probably the most stressful of the jobs that I have to do.
Coach, is there a certain philosophy or maybe like a certain phrase that everyone knows on your team that this is what Matt Quattrone wants? Like this is just his thing. Like what is something like that?
Well, I know our guys know that I love doing four-way neck. That's probably the thing I'm most known for. Dom knows about Neck Mountain.
Neck Mountain, I was just gonna say, yeah.
Sure. But I'm a true DBCer, man, and then we have our own hashtags kind of as a program, being Forks Up, Walk Through the Smoke, and the Red Devil Takeover, and Machine Mentality, and those are things that I've embodied, and I kind of like to fit the brand of Dickinson rather than bring my own brand here, because at the end of the day, if we can't follow those things as a program, we're not going to do as well. So I'd like to be thought of through those hashtags that our program already uses.
Cool. Looking to build these programs that get us nice and jacked up. I know you like to get an early morning pump in before we get our early morning pump in. So are you kind of building our program through testing it with yourself and, seeing how that works? I've always been kind of curious about that. And we talked about it a little bit, but, kind of take us through your building.
So I was fortunate to do an internship at a higher level while I was in college. I actually got that internship through Dickinson, which was great. And one of the best pieces of advice I got while I was there was, when writing programs, you better have done that program yourself before you give it to anyone else. Like, don't just read a textbook and think, oh, this sounds great, let me give it to our guys. And next thing you know, you got 30 hamstring injuries because you didn't test it out. So I am typically, within reason, like 4 to 6 weeks ahead of you guys. Football being the team I work with the most, I'm 4 to 6 weeks ahead of them in their program, so I can test some things out and see how I feel going through it. And if I feel great, we're gonna do it. If it beats me up, we're not gonna do it. So I kind of use myself as the test dummy.
Yeah, so I kind of want to ask a little bit about what it was like living in Carlisle, kind of going through the school, being around Dickinson growing up, and then having to go to McDaniel and play against Dickinson. What was that whole experience like? And I think, if I'm not mistaken, you might have beat Dickinson at one point too.
No, not a lot. We beat them my senior year. It was the only win I've ever had against Dickinson. I've played them 6 times, 4 times as a player, 2 times as a coach, 1 and 5. So that's another reason, if you can't beat them, join them. So it was definitely a tough experience for me. One that we were losing, but also just, my dad's on the sideline. He was still coaching at the time. And one of my favorite stories was my junior year back in Carlisle. Last time I'm ever going to play a football game in Carlisle. And up until this point, we had always had some close battles with the Red Devils. And we just got shellacked. Like, it was like 42-14 at halftime or something like that. Billy Berger, another local Carlisle legend, he was tearing us up that year. And I remember it's like the fourth quarter, 2 minutes left. We're still getting beat pretty bad, and I'm still on the field. I'm letting my head hang a little bit because I'm bummed out, and I hear from Dickinson's sideline, "Hey, don't you stop. Don't you ever quit." And I look, and it's my dad screaming at me from the Dickinson sideline. So, it was definitely a unique experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. I am definitely glad that I got the last laugh as a player, beat them my senior year. And, my dad was so mad he didn't even shake my hand afterward, which was awesome to me. Just speaks to how competitive he is and how competitive I am as well. But yeah, it was a great experience. And then I got to coach against them 1 year as a GA at McDaniel, and then he moved up to being the athletic director. So the second year, unfortunately, he wasn't on the sideline that day. Actually, he was still on the sideline, but he wasn't coaching.
That's interesting. Well, I was actually just going to ask you what maybe your favorite memory was, either playing against Dickinson or coaching for Dickinson. So now that you've said that your favorite memory playing against Dickinson was that, what was your favorite memory coaching for Dickinson?
Coaching for Dickinson is definitely beating F&M last year in the Wagon game. Probably the most exciting 3-3 end of regulation game of all time. It was a defensive battle. And then we both scored on our first play of the first overtime. Second overtime, we scored. Phil Butler had a nice 8-yard, 13-yard scamper, something like that. And we stopped them on 4th and goal, and then the place went wild for me. That meant a lot because I know how much that rivalry means to my dad. So I've grown up having the same feelings toward that rivalry. So that was a big moment for me. To see the Wagon come back to Carlisle was a great feeling for me.
That's great. Yeah.
I'm going to shift gears a little bit with my next question, and it's something I talked about with you, Coach, because we have the luxury of having you around most of the time, but some of the other sports teams might not have the luxury of this. In terms of nutrition and being like a collegiate athlete, you obviously need more calories. You need to be eating all the right stuff to fuel your body. Like you can lift and train all you want, but if you're not feeling your body, you're not going to see the results. So, how do D3 athletes, especially who don't have nutritionists and who don't have access to, all the food and training that D1 or D2 might have, how do they, first of all, kind of learn what they need to be eating, and then how to actually consume all that stuff, while like in like the calf and stuff like that?
Yep. So great question. In terms of learning, it's really on you guys to read. Dom, that I try to make it a point to talk about nutrition, hydration, and sleep at the end of each of our lifts. But it can't fall on deaf ears. You have to go out, do your own research. There's a great guideline. I know they're in the training rooms. Those are written, but I use Eat to Compete, which is, I actually believe it was created by a Dickinson alum, which is great. It's got a bunch of simple guidelines in terms of what to eat. And then as far as, using that info in the calf, it's just all about making the right choices. Like, I don't think it takes a genius to know you should stay away from a cheeseburger and French fries and maybe go more toward chicken, rice, and broccoli. It's really a matter of discipline and looking for the right options. And then as far as tracking that progress, to me, you got to put it down on paper, or use one of the million apps that are out there that allow you to track your macronutrients and your caloric intake, and it actually gives you the information on what you're eating. I'm a big guy of big proponent of keeping it simple. I'm not one of those guys that's like, you can never have pizza and ice cream. There's always time for pizza and ice cream, right? But you have to do it in moderation and make sure that you are making the right choices the majority of the time. But really the onus is going to fall on the student athlete to do the right things. I can talk until I'm blue in the face, but if you want to continue to eat pizza and wings, you're going to continue to eat pizza and wings, and one day it'll catch up with you. But really it's more of an education type thing.
So this is something we kind of talked last week with your dad about, and I kind of wanted to ask you about it. Obviously, growing up with Dickinson, and you kind of understand the importance of, the family. It's something we were talking to him about last week. I kind of wanted to hear what you have to say about family relating to Dickinson. And it probably has even more meaning to you, given that, your family is literally embedded in Dickinson.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Dickinson is family. Like I said, I grew up going to Dickinson events. I have probably 1,000 pictures with my favorite, my role models growing up weren't in the NFL. They weren't at Penn State or Pitt. They were Dickinson college football players, whether that's Eric Doobie, Ian Mitchell, Mike O'Donnell, Dennis Nelson, Dwight File. There's a million of them that I could name. I don't want to offend anybody if they watch this and don't get named. But it's always been family to me. So I was actually I graduated from McDaniel, got my master's degree there, moved on to another school. Wasn't really a great fit for me. So Coach Fordyce got word of that, and he called me and said, "Hey, why don't you work for us?" I jumped at it immediately because this place means so much to me. And just seeing, all of the things that I had already thought about the school and the athletics program actually come true right before my eyes. I had always thought, tight-knit teams, they work really hard for you. Attendance and all those things aren't issues ever. To see all of that actually happen in person just kind of reiterated, like, yes, this is a great place where family is important. And also to see how the athletes support each other. I see Dom and talking to baseball players as they're leaving lifts, or lacrosse players as they're leaving lifts. And they're all dapping each other up and saying what's up and supporting each other. And that to me is what it's all about. So yeah, love the Red Devil family.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm out of questions for you. If anybody else has any, Dom, if you can go right ahead if you want. I just wanted to comment on that real quick. The family legacy, I totally get it. I mean, I don't know if you listened to the show last week, but your dad coached my dad at Dickinson, and it was it's great. And I'm very glad to be here. Thanks for coming on.
Of course, thanks for having me, guys.
Are you I never asked you this. Are you a Bills fan?
I'm actually a Steelers fan, but the Bills are like a close second. It's really hard when they're good. Like this year started and they were lighting the world on fire. I was like, man, might have to jump ship to the Bills. Fortunately, the
Steelers aren't bad this year. Yeah,
Steelers are getting it done this year. When it comes to NFL football, I'm more like lax with my fandom. I'm definitely a Steelers fan, but I also like the Eagles. I like the Bills. I even like the Ravens defense. I know that the Steelers fans, if you watch this, you're going to hate me for saying that, but I love the Ravens defense. College football, big Penn State fan, and nobody else. So, but yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for coming on. Appreciate
it, Coach.
Yep. Take care, guys.
And we are back after a great interview with another quick word from the Grazery. Complex is something no coach or athlete wants to deal with, which is why every team aims to keep schemes and execution simple, so success is easy to achieve. That's the game plan used by the Grazery right here in Carlisle. Simple ingredients that are fresh, healthy, and above all, delicious. Healthy, not boring food that is not just good for you, not just good, but good for you. I think I screwed that line up every single time. So I apologize to Grazery for that, but made from only the healthiest and simple ingredients. So come in today and enjoy a great meal made simple at the Grazery, located at 156 West High Street in Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
Okay, so today, with the World Series being over and the LA Dodgers winning and officially becoming title town. Sorry, Sammy. We decided to do the top 5 World Series teams. So the best winning baseball teams, MLB teams of all time. So I will be honest with everybody. My research, or not my research, my knowledge of MLB winners of the World Series winners is not great. So I just kind of was Googling some of the better teams with some of the best players of all time. So that's what my list is going to consist of. And, one or two of my own little personal add-ins. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go with the 1927 New York Yankees as my number 5 team. I remember watching them. They were unreal. Babe Ruth was he was unbelievable. It was crazy. So that's my number 5.
All right. On my number 4, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to butter Sam up real quick. I'm going to, just so he doesn't get too mad at me for who else I have on my list later in my list. So I'm going to go with the 2004 Sox, that first World Series to break the curse, solely because of that ALCS. That was so awesome. It was great. The 4 Days in October documentary is one of my favorites, favorite 30 for 30s of all time. It's just fantastic. Go ahead, Sammy.
Yeah, so my 5, and I'm going to warn you, I'm still living in the past on this list with previous title town. But I have my bias has been out of the other list, so I'll take a pass. But my number 5 is I did a lot of teams that I actually got to watch play to a certain degree, or more recent to me. Not that Dom didn't get to watch Babe Ruth, but so my number 5 is the 2016 Cubs, and that was because that is probably my favorite World Series that I've ever watched. It was the most exciting series I can remember, and that's being a Red Sox fan. But that series and that Game 7 were, something I'll never forget. Oh, and I know Dom's dealing with some internet stuff. So Sam, we'll go with your 4, and then we'll catch Dom up.
I'll go for my number 4. I've got the 2011 Cardinals. I know that was just an awesome series against the Rangers. It was it's widely known as one of the best World Series ever. I mean, one of the best games ever. Also, I know every time I see like a sports reel of like greatest sports moments, it's that comeback with the Cardinals just mashing baseballs in the gap. David Freese is just awesome. Probably one of the best World Series performances of all time.
Tom, who do you have it for?
Yeah, my 4 is the 01 Diamondbacks. I was a huge backyard baseball fan on the computer and for my PlayStation when I was younger, and I loved Randy Johnson, so I will go with the 01 Arizona Diamondbacks for that.
All right, so number 4 is my first appearance from a Red Sox team, and it is the 2018 Red Sox. And that team, speaking of teams that beat the Dodgers, it was that Red Sox team and Mookie Betts at the time, not to break my own heart. But the thing is, when the Red Sox win a championship, minus the 2004 season, it's not one of their better players that gets the MVP. It's just someone who shows up. Steve Pearce got the MVP for that World Series.
totally forgot about that. That's nuts.
But you got to think about that series had standout performances. Nathan Eovaldi came up.
Oh, yeah.
Sale came up. David Price came up. I thought Price was winning the MVP, but overall that Red Sox team, I don't know what happened over the next 2 seasons, minus a lot of pitching injuries, but
brutal. It's brutal. I know. I went to Fenway that year for the first time ever, and it was just one of the best experiences of my life. And I got to see Eovaldi's debut for the Red Sox, which was awesome. He absolutely dealt
an entire year.
Yeah, and Chris Sale was just unbelievable as well. I mean, was he Cy Young? Was he Cy Young that year?
I can't remember off the top of my head. He might have been.
I'm pretty sure he won the Cy Young that year because he was contending for one of the best seasons that a pitcher has ever had. Like, he was that gross. So I'll hit you with my my number 3. I'm going to go with the 2016 Cubs because that was just an awesome, well-rounded team. I mean, I like Chris Bryant as a player. And Javi Baez is one of the most electric shortstops right now. Like, I love watching those tag videos that he just puts on second base. They're so slick. It's so awesome. So I'm going with the 2016 Cubs.
Year 3. Oh, we cannot hear you. Sam, can you hear him?
No, I can't hear you, Dom.
My mic.
There you go. You're good.
Yeah, my bad. So my number 3 would be the 08 Phils. The first championship I saw in Philadelphia. I still remember it very vividly. And it was I went to the parade on Halloween down Broad Street.
Yep.
Very cool. One of my favorite teams of all time. So going with them as my number 3.
Easily.
And so my number 3, there isn't really a big reason for it, minus that I just love good pitching. And the 95 Braves were a team that had good pitching. A lot of the times pitchers don't really get MVPs in the World Series, but Tom Glavine got it that season, and he was arguably not even the best pitcher on that staff.
Yeah.
So
that's correct.
That 95 Braves team kind of gets my nod solely because I love good pitching. So
yeah, they were gross. I remember, I didn't watch. I wasn't born yet, but I'd seen highlights and stuff, and it was gross. No relation for me to Tom Glavine, unfortunately. He spells his name with an E, and I don't. So Tom Glavine, unfortunately, is not related to myself. But that's a good pick, Sammy. My number 2 is going to be the 1927 Yankees, just widely known as probably the best team ever. Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig. I mean, it's hard to beat that. So I'm going to go with the 27 Yankees.
Dom, you?
Yeah, my number 2 is the 04 Sox. And while, I'm not a huge Boston fan, I can appreciate how good that team was and recognize that. And I love Big Papi. So, I'll give it to them. They're a hell of a team. And, a lot of these older teams that we talk about, obviously, besides 1927, which was sick. I told you guys I watched that, but all those the other ones, I didn't see, but, so I'm trying to keep it more recent if I can.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was what I did with my entire list. I didn't put anyone past the Braves solely because I want to talk about teams I have at least a better idea of, film on. Because, I mean, I can talk about old players, but I really didn't get to watch them. So,
yeah.
So my number 2 is the 99 Yankees. And as much as it hurts me to put them on there as a Red Sox fan, I got to. And the other reason being is that even as a Red Sox fan, one of my favorite players of all time is Mariano Rivera. There is no better postseason pitcher ever, possibly even postseason performer ever, than Mariano Rivera.
Yep.
So
first unanimous Hall of Fame pick. That was awesome. Obviously, and I think Joe Girardi was on that team as well. So he's a Phillies manager. But you guys knew it was coming. My number 1 is the 2008 Phillies World Series team. Just an all-around great team. They are everything I want the current Phillies to be. They had an absurd lineup, 1 through 9, starting pitching, one of the greatest pitching staffs, all up there with the 95 Braves, I think. And you can even argue that the 09 Phillies the next year were even better with Roy Halladay and all those other guys. Cole Hamels won the MVP that year, which is great. And the bullpen is phenomenal. I mean, Brad Lidge was perfect the whole year. Just everybody, Ryan Madsen, everybody sleeps on Ryan Madsen. Ryan Madsen was phenomenal throughout that, but Brad Lidge eventually came in and closed it down. I mean, there were no flaws with that team. It was so great. Everybody coming off the bench, Matt Stairs, it was just great. I could go on and on about the 2008 Phillies. They were one of my favorite teams to watch ever.
Yeah, so my number one will be the 98 Yankees. Like you just said, like the 99 Yankees, Sam, the 98 Yankees with that incredible pitching staff, as well as Derek Jeter and all of them. So, in recent years, I honestly, I just widely know that this team was incredible in that stretch, one of the many stretches the Yankees had. I'll go with the 98 Yankees for the best team.
Honestly, I'm surprised with all the Philadelphia stuff that Sam's put on a list. He didn't find a way to get like the Eagles' most recent Super Bowl in there. Just like,
you know what? Here's the thing. So like, I know that
here we go.
I have my biases, right? And I talk about this on my other show, shameless plug inbound. Go check out the Wolves of Broad Street podcast. I have some sense, okay? Like, I'm not going to put a football team on the freaking World Series roster or the World Series list. So, like, give me a break. Like, I get it. I know Dom rips on me too. And Justin and I, our producer, Justin, had a bet that Dom may not put the 2008 World Series because he might have forgotten. But
I was at the parade.
I know, but I thought, like I just didn't know. Sometimes you rip on me for putting Phillies team. Maybe you want to stay unbiased, but I'm
staying unbiased, man. I'm a Red Devil fan at the end of the day in all realms of the name.
All righty.
Honestly, I'm surprised Fulgham didn't get mentioned for Sam this week. But
if you want me to talk about Fulgham, I can talk about Fulgham.
Let me give you my teams first. So I'll give the shout out to the 2014. The 2014 was great, and it was nice to get rid of that curse. But my number one team is the 2007 Red Sox, and that MVP was Mike Wool. And the reason I had the 2007 Red Sox over the 2004 team is because that was the first one I can actually remember.
Cool.
So I think the first championship I remember as a fan was the 2006 Colts. And
I remember that.
And then, that game was very stressful, especially with Hester returning that really early on. But, the 2007 Red Sox and Mike Lowell and that whole team, as I said, just random players get MVPs on the season when the Red Sox won the World Series. But that team was fun to watch. I really just missed when the Red Sox had a bullpen. Jonathan Papelbon dealt that year. And
telling me, kid.
The Red Sox biggest weakness ever since then has been their bullpen.
I don't like Papelbon. I hate.
Well, he was bad for the Phillies, but he was.
Not only was he bad, he was a jerk.
Well, he wasn't really the favorite guy in Boston, but he played well enough where we dealt with it. So
it's fair enough. I know. I bullpen. It just shows you how important a bullpen is, because the Phillies this year, they had a great lineup, great starting pitching, and they had probably one of the worst bullpens in history and didn't make the playoffs. If they had even, and I talked about this on my last show, if they had even just like a slightly average or maybe even slightly below average bullpen, they would have made the playoffs. That's that simple. They were leading in 75% of their games and they lost those leads because of the bullpen. That's it.
I feel like during the season, the most important thing is to have a bullpen, because you don't want to burn your pitchers out during the season. But once you get into the postseason, your starters are your priority. Mm-hmm. Maybe like having good starting rotation. Because you see the Tampa Bay Rays with their starting three, that dynamic trio, and then of course the Dodgers have a really good entire rotation. Mm-hmm. So starting pitching will carry you only so far, because your bullpen is what really closes the door. Mm-hmm. You saw this with the Rays. Blake Snell can pitch as well as he wants. If your bullpen isn't going to close the door, it means nothing. You get a no decision. So,
well, sometimes it's the manager's fault, but
I want to apologize for my lack of World Series knowledge here. I'll be honest, I was a bigger baseball fan than I was anything growing up, and then kind of just faded out of it. But yeah, these guys keep me in check here today and talking baseball.
We got
don't worry, Dom. You'll pick the list for next week.
Yeah, you can pick the list for next
week.
Dude,
I picked the Carlisle the top 5 the restaurants one. That was electric.
That was probably the best one. We want more ideas like that.
Yeah, I will. I always miss the Monday meetings because I'm coaching Pee Wee football, and then I get the.
You let us know Sunday night.
All
Yeah.
right, I got you.
Let us know the list. You can pick the list for next week. It's
Okay,
all,
awesome.
it's all you.
All right. Oh, Dom, you want a shameless plug quick? Sam
Uh,
got his.
You know, I might as so he got his shameless plug in.
Yeah, I got mine.
I'll shameless plug mine in. Go listen to Days with Dom, my other episode. And you can follow me on Instagram and basically every other social media platform. Thank you. Shameless plug. Got you.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. That was another episode with the Speak of the Devils crew. Tune in for next week. Thanks again to Matt Quattrone, and roll Devs.
Hold up.
Peace.